Hi everyone, my name is Mette Lykke. I am CEO of Too Good To Go, and today I want to talk to you about how we can empower everyone in the fight against food waste. So why even talk about food waste in the first place? That's because almost 40% of all the food produced in this world simply ends up in the bin. It never makes it to human consumption. That in itself is shocking. And then when you double click on it and you look into the different aspects of this issue, it's even more shocking. So we look at it from three different perspectives. First, we have the environmental aspect of food waste. This is the fact that about 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions actually come from food that we waste. The land we use to produce food that is then wasted is bigger than the size of China. That is quite mind-blowing. Then there's a social aspect. 870 million people go to bed hungry every day when we actually produce more than enough food for everyone on the planet. That's the injustice of food waste. And then finally, we have the financial aspect. The value of all this food wasted is $1.2 trillion on an annual basis. That's a massive, massive waste also financially. And maybe that's the only good news or the only opportunity here is really that there is a way where we can run a more efficient value chain when it comes to food. For Too Good To Go, the mission is to inspire and empower everyone to fight food waste together. So in this mission statement here, you have inspire, which basically means we want to create the awareness around the issue. We want to inspire people to actually do something. And empower means we also want to give them the tools to change habit. And then you have everyone here and together, which really implicitly is this idea that we need to create a movement against food waste. Because the waste is happening for so many reasons and across a complicated value chain, we need to make sure that most of us, or all of these actors along the value chain, really change our perception around food and our habits and throw away less of it. Too Good To Go is primarily known for our app, which works as a marketplace for surplus food. It's easy for both users and stores to use. As a user, you can see the favorite stores nearby. You can get some idea of what they expect to have left by the end of the business. Of course, they don't know. That's the nature of food waste. It's unpredictable. But you get some sense of what they might have left. You reserve it on the app, and then you go to the store and pick it up, typically at the time where the store closes for the day. From a store experience perspective, you try to forecast best as you can how much food is going to be in surplus. You put that food up for sale on the app, and then you prepare it so that when the users come, they will get the bag with them. Quite easy to use, and we put a lot of effort into making it as easy as humanly possible. So the status right now is that Too Good To Go is the world's largest marketplace of its kind. We are in 17 countries by now, 15 of them in Europe, and then also in US and Canada. We just passed 50 million registered users globally, and we work with more than 90,000 different stores on a monthly basis now. In total, we've saved 110 million meals from going to waste, and we have inspired 148 million people. And when do you know you've inspired someone? That's a hard one to measure, but we look at what's the brand awareness for Too Good To Go and how many of the people who know about us also know that it's about fighting food waste. Our team consists of about 1,300 waste warriors by now across these 17 markets. The company is B Corp certified, and we work with some global brands and trusted partners like Starbucks, 7-Eleven, Carrefour mentioned here. A little bit more maybe about how we're doing in Portugal. So in Portugal, we have about 3,000 partners that are saving food with us on the app. So that's 3,000 stores. We have saved more than 1 million meals since the beginning in Portugal, and almost 1 million people have now registered on the platform. And we are active in all the district capitals and in total in more than 100 Portuguese cities. So I think it's fair to say that we cover the country fairly well by now. What we just talked about here was kind of what we think of as our direct impact. And the direct impact that is really measured in meals saved, and we can follow that by the second. But it's not the full story about Too Good To Go. We really think that in addition to this direct impact, we can have a huge impact indirectly. So this is a bit of a halo effect on top of the marketplace, where we have this opportunity to inspire and change habits outside of the food saved on the app. So some of the initiatives we have going here relate to figuring out how can we get consumers to waste less food in the household. When we look at the European data for food waste, about half of all the waste is actually wasted in the household. So that's food that the consumers bought and paid for. That doesn't make any sense. And it turns out that a big reason why all this food is wasted at home is because we as consumers don't understand enough the difference between the different date labelings we have. So we think use by and best before dates are the same thing. And they're really not. So one of the big initiatives we've done over these past years has been to try to educate consumers on what best before really means. If you see a food product with a best before date, it actually means often good after. The best before date is just the date at which the producer will guarantee the highest quality. But there is typically no health risk associated with eating the food after that date. You just need to use your senses. So you look at the food, you smell it, you taste it, and then you make an informed decision about whether or not you feel like actually consuming it. Educating consumers about this has been a big effort for us. So we have worked on this project in 12 countries by now, where we have basically teamed up with some of the biggest producers in these countries. So we've worked with, for example, Unilever, Carlsberg, Arla, at a more European level to see if we can really improve the date labeling here. There's this little logo here with the smell and the look, the smell and the taste, and it's of course translated into many different countries. But it's really a good example of how we can take on more responsibility than just running our business. So there's no revenue associated with an initiative like this for us. It's really just about helping build the movement against food waste. We've done this campaign in Portugal as well, where we had 31 different producers signing up, being part of it, including Hellmann's and other very known brands. And in total, the little logo here about the date labeling is on 60 different products that these brands are selling, and it's still the project is still going on, and we are still adding additional partners to the project. So that's one example of what we do when it comes to indirect impact. Another example is that we work with schools, and we think it's important that kids learn the value of food from an early age. If we look at what has happened over these past generations, we think there's been a huge slide in the respect for food. So, you know, when I talk to my grandmothers who lived through the Second World War, they definitely have a very, very different understanding of the value of food versus my parents, my generation, and even my kids' generation. So there's something there that got lost a little bit. Food also got significantly cheaper. So we think if we can get kids to kind of respect the food from an early age, maybe they have a chance of thinking about it a bit differently, and maybe some of them will also go home and police their parents a little bit. So what we've done in this area is we've produced free educational material that teachers and schools can use. They can download this from our website. It's free of charge, and they can basically just take it into the classroom and teach kids about this. We have also teamed up with some of our big supermarket partners in setting up classes for kids around this. And we work with an organization under the UN on how we can really distribute this material in a more effective way. So that's another example of how we try to think about what we do as part of a bigger movement. Another example could be public affairs, where we really would like to try to influence politicians, policymakers, regulators, and make sure that the laws and the regulation we have within this area are actually driving down the waste instead of driving it up. And definitely here, date labeling on a policy level is also a big thing. We also really would like to see all governments have a clear policy on food waste, set a clear goal, measure it, and have action plans for how we can actually reduce the waste that is happening across all the countries. In Portugal, we are working both with the education and public affairs and different conferences. And during COVID, it's of course different, but I think we have still done our best and managed to get the word out and tell our story and really try to get people to understand the issue of food waste and hopefully also inspire them a bit to change behavior in this area. Overall, when it comes to just in general doing business in 2022, I think it's becoming more and more clear that things are changing in the way we do business. The consumers simply just expect a lot more from brands. And I think that it used to be the case that there were a lot of topics where brands were like, oh no, we don't want to talk about that. That is going to be radioactive, or that's going to polarize the consumers. And more, it's just the case that as a brand, if you really want to be a big brand, then you have to take a stance on many things. And of course, sustainability is maybe the no-brainer of them all. It's something that we all as business owners have to look at. We have to have a perspective and have a strategy and a plan in place. I think of it a little bit as when we talked about digitalization 10 or 15 years ago and how that was the big wave and the next era. And either you make it or you don't, but time will tell. And definitely if you don't make this, you probably won't make it as a company. For me, sustainability has that same power and that same importance. And in addition to being super important from a business perspective, it also just is the right thing to do. I think we owe it to the next generations to leave the world in a better shape than we found it in, and of course right now that's not exactly the case. Too Good To Go is a social impact company. That's how we think about ourselves. We really want to have an impact. Both directly, I also talked about it indirectly, but there is another aspect of it, which is that we would like to do our best, at least, to set an example also in the way that we run our business. And that's part of the reason why we're B Corp certified. We got this certification back in 2019. We recently got someone on board who will work full time with the B Corp framework and with figuring out what are the elements of B Corp that we can really elevate and use to make Too Good To Go an even better company, both for our employees, but also for our users and our customers. And I think there's a big potential here, and it's really nice to see how the B Corp movement has been gaining a lot of traction and is experiencing big success now, and more companies are simply joining this and want to make sure that they also look at their business from several perspectives and not just from a profitability perspective. I'm often asked how we walk the fine line between social impact and profitability. And I don't actually think we walk a fine line. I think for a company like ours, the impact and the profitability can go hand in hand very nicely. whenever we make a euro in revenue, it's because we saved a meal from going to waste. It's because we did something good. So there's no contradiction between the two. And then on top of that, we have all the indirect impact, which of course we invest significant money in, but we really also believe that that is to the benefit of everyone. So for me, the whole new era here is one where it's not a fine line, and you don't have to decide if you want to be a social impact company that has no commercial model that's ever going to fly, or if you want to be a traditional company that's highly profitable and does a lot of bad things. I really think the power in the social impact movement here is that we can have both. We just need to be innovative and come up with ideas that are strong enough. And I don't think that's easy, but it is doable. And then I think we have to continue just the conversation and hold ourselves to a high standard. It's tough sometimes, but that's okay. And I think nobody is perfect, but let's still continue raising the bar and build the best companies we can build for the future and for the next generations. Thank you.